1941 that had recordings of everything said since we landed in England.
Wow.
Every recording, they played it back to us. And then they said, now you're free. And they gave us a cab and we went to London. We had friends who had an apartment. And we stayed in the apartment. It was just when the bombs started coming down. And my mother was terrified. Absolutely terrified. 6 o'clock at night, the air raids would start and we would, you know. And this lasted about 2 weeks. And then my father said, can't live this way. So he found an apartment, and you're not going to believe it, in the most luxurious area of London, St. John's Wood, on the 2nd floor. It was 2 apartments put together. All our friends who were also in the Victoria School for Girls, my father managed to get the Belgian government to release them. So there were all of us in this one apartment, and my mother was afraid, and my father said, there's 4 floors above us, and then there's a concrete roof. So if a bomb's going to fall, it's not going to fall here. So there were 4 of us and 3 of them, and then the 2 gentlemen whose wives were outside of London. They stayed with us too. And every night at 6 o'clock at night, the air raids would start, and we had made in the lobby a table, and everybody would sit there and wait for the air raid to sound off. And we'd hear the bombs come down, and we'd go to the window, and my father would say, Selfridges is burning, Paddington Station is burning. You know, you didn't have television, you just had the radio, and they didn't announce things. So eventually, my father got a job, and he was so relieved. And it was a 7-hour train trip out of London. And we were city folks, you know, live on a street, the houses around, trees, a park, things like that. We landed in a godforsaken place. It rains 360 days a year there. The name of the town is Preston, Lancashire. First of all, they speak English with a terrible accent, and whatever English you learned, it's no good because you don't understand what they say. They put us in a hotel right by the railroad, so every time the train went by, the hotel would move. So my father immediately contacted, and the people who hired him were General Motors. And he contacted General Motors and he said, my wife cannot handle this. And they put us in the nicest hotel in the town. And they said, you can stay there until we find a house for you. In the meantime, you go to work. And what he was doing, he was managing the diesel engine trucks, army trucks, but the big ones, you know, the 18-wheelers and the great big ones. And he didn't know anything about diesel engines, but, you know, bless my father, he got out of it. And British people don't like foreigners. They call them aliens. They called them in those days aliens. And yet they didn't mind having my father be their manager. And he went to every army around that was in England, and he taught the mechanics how to repair the minor repairs of the diesel engines. Only the main big engines that they couldn't fix would come up there. And they put us in a house, 2-story house. It was so horrible, it was pathetic, it was just so horrible. And my mother went into deep depression. From that moment on, that was it. And my father complained to General Motors, and they found a nice house for us. And we lived out in the middle of an orchard. There were 9 houses, an orchard all the way around us. But anyway, we lived there until the war ended. In the meantime, my brother joined the Royal Air Force, and he couldn't fly because his eyesight wasn't any good, so he became a radio communicator. So he was flying the radios in the RAF planes. And
She almost died.
I don't know, I think so.
the war ended, and my father decided that
I
the
thought I
Belgian
did.
government called him and said, you can't work anymore, you need to come and help us. So he went to London, left us there, and we somehow or other managed to get down to London. He found us an apartment right where the underground goes in and comes out. So every time they went out, the whole apartment shook. I slept in the living room, that's how big the apartment was. You needed a stoplight to go into the kitchen because it was down. Anyway, in August, we were able to return back to Belgium. Came back to Belgium, found out that that house had been completely destroyed by American officers who had used it. And the ceilings were broken, the furniture, the bedroom furniture was under the house. It was just horrible. And the worst thing was, I arrived home, and they didn't even have a bed for me, so I had to go sleep at somebody's house. And I felt like I was totally unwanted. You know, first I took care of my mother for 4 years because she wouldn't do anything. I would find her sitting on the doorstep whilst I went to school. So it was very difficult then. When I came home, I finally, after 6 years, I came to America. At 51, I came to America. By the way, the trip from our house to England was over 3,000 miles. And took us 7 months to get to England. And yet, you could take the Eurostar, and in 2 hours, you're in England. So that's very good.